I never believed the local legends about the stretch of Interstate 20 that cuts through the heart of Texas. Not until I took the graveyard shift at a lonely Texaco station 40 miles from the nearest town. My name is Mike, and for 6 months, the silence of the desert was my only companion. But 3 weeks ago, that silence was broken by something that still makes my hands shake when I hold the flashlight. It was 3:14 a.m. The fluorescent lights hummed a low, buzzing tune that seemed to vibrate inside my skull. Outside, the world was a void of pitch black, save for the sickly yellow glow of the gas pumps. I was busy stocking a shelf of overpriced beef jerky when the bells above the door chimed. I didn't hear a car pull up. No engine rumble, no gravel crunching under tires, just the chime. I stood up, expecting a weary trucker or a traveler lost in the dark. Instead, a man stood by the refrigerated drinks. He was tall, uncomfortably so, wearing a heavy, stained trench coat that looked completely out of place in the Texas heat. He didn't look at me. He just stared at the glass door of the soda cooler. "Can I help you find something?" I asked, my voice sounding thin in the empty store. He didn't move. He didn't blink. I could see his reflection in the glass. His skin was the color of old parchment, stretched tight over his cheekbones. After a long minute, he pointed a long, trembling finger at a bottle of water. Is it cold?" he whispered. His voice sounded like sandpaper rubbing against stone. "Yeah, man, everything in there is cold," I replied, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. He opened the door, but he didn't grab the water. He just let the cold air hit him, standing there for what felt like an eternity. That's when I noticed something. The security monitor behind the counter was showing the front of the store. The pumps were empty. There was no car, no bicycle, nothing. "Sir, are you okay?" I started walking toward the counter, reaching for the silent alarm button under the register. He slowly turned his head. His neck made a sickening cracking sound, like dry twigs snapping. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking past me, at the darkened window of the office behind the counter. "He's coming back for his change," the man said. Before I could ask who, the power flickered. The hum of the lights died, plunging the Texaco into a suffocating darkness. In that split second, I heard a sound that didn't belong in a gas station. The wet, heavy dragging of something metallic across the asphalt outside. I fumbled for my phone, the flashlight beam cutting through the dark. The tall man was gone. The cooler door was still wide open, frost beginning to mist the glass. I swung the light toward the front windows. Pressed against the glass were dozens of handprints. Not human ones. They were elongated, with too many joints, leaving oily gray streaks on the pane. And then I saw it. A face, if you could call it that, pale and featureless, pressed against the glass, staring directly at me with eyes that were nothing more than hollow, black pits. I locked myself in the back office, clutching a tire iron, listening to the scratching in the walls. It lasted until the first hint of dawn touched the horizon. When the morning manager arrived, the tall man was gone. The handprints were gone. But sitting on the counter was a single, rusted silver dollar from 1924. I quit that day. I don't drive on I-20 after sunset anymore, because I know that whatever is out there, it's still waiting for its change. My name is Sarah, and I've been an avid hiker since I was a kid. The Appalachian Trail was supposed to be my sanctuary, a place to clear my head after a messy breakup. I decided to do a solo 3-day loop near the Blue Ridge Mountains. On the second night, I realized I wasn't the only one enjoying the woods. I set up my tent near a small creek, about 5 miles from the nearest trailhead. The mist was rolling in thick, typical for Virginia, turning the trees into ghostly silhouettes. As I was boiling water for my dehydrated meal, I felt that prickle on the back of my neck, the sensation of being watched. I scanned the tree line. Nothing but shadows. I dismissed it as nerves and crawled into my sleeping bag. But around midnight, I was jolted awake by a sound. Snap. A heavy branch breaking, maybe 20 feet from my tent. "Hello?" I called out, my heart hammering against my ribs. Silence. Then a voice. It was soft, almost melodic, coming from the darkness. "You have such a bright tent, Sarah. It's like a lantern in the deep." My blood turned to ice. How did he know my name? I reached for my bear spray, my hand shaking so hard I almost dropped it. I didn't have a weapon, just a small camping knife. "Who are you? I have a gun," I lied, my voice cracking. A low chuckle drifted through the nylon walls of the tent. "No, you don't. You have a pink notebook, a half-eaten granola bar, and a picture of a dog named Buster in your bag. I saw it while you were filtering water at the creek." He'd been watching me all day. He had been close enough to see inside my pack while I was distracted. I realized then that I wasn't dealing with a hiker who had lost his way. This was a predator. I heard his footsteps circling the tent, slow, deliberate. He was dragging something behind him. Scrape, scrape, scrape. It sounded like a heavy chain. "Why don't you come out, Sarah? The mist is beautiful tonight. We can walk to the overlook together." I stayed silent, praying he would leave. I pulled my phone out. No signal, not even a single bar. I was completely isolated. Suddenly, the side of the tent pushed inward. A hand, pale and dirty, was pressing against the fabric, tracing the outline of my body from the outside. "I can see where you're hiding," the voice whispered, right against the ear level of the tent. I didn't think. I acted. I sprayed the bear spray directly at the area where the hand was pressing. I heard a muffled grunt and a heavy thud. Without waiting, I sliced a hole in the opposite side of the tent with my knife, scrambled out, and sprinted into the woods. I ran for miles in the dark, ignoring the branches tearing at my skin. I didn't stop until I hit the main road at 4 a.m. A passing trucker found me shivering and hysterical. The police went back to my campsite the next day. The tent was shredded to ribbons. My gear was gone. But they found one thing the stalker had left behind. Neatly arranged where my head would have been was a circle of teeth. Human teeth. The hiker they arrested 2 months later in a nearby town had my Buster photo in his wallet. He didn't have a name on record. He just smiled at the camera, waiting for his next bright lantern in the woods. When I moved to Chicago for a junior graphic design job, I was broke. Naturally, I turned to Craigslist to find a roommate. That's how I met Arthur. He seemed like the perfect candidate. Quiet, kept to himself, and worked late hours at a laboratory. The first week in the 2-bedroom apartment in Logan Square was fine. Arthur was a ghost. I'd see his shoes by the door, hear the hum of a white noise machine from his room, but we rarely spoke. Then, the smells started. It began as a faint metallic odor, like old pennies. Then it evolved into something sweet and sickly, like rotting fruit covered in bleach. When I asked Arthur about it through his closed door, he just said, "It's a chemical spill from work. It got into my clothes. I'm cleaning it." One Tuesday, I came home early because of a migraine. The apartment was freezing, like windows open in January freezing. I walked into the kitchen and saw Arthur standing over the sink. He was wearing heavy rubber gloves and was scrubbing something vigorously. "Hey, Arthur, why is it so cold in—" He jumped, nearly knocking over a large plastic bin on the counter. He turned around, and for the first time, I saw his eyes clearly. They were bloodshot, the pupils dilated so wide, his eyes looked entirely black. "You're home early, David," he said. His tone wasn't friendly. It was an accusation. "Yeah, migraine. What are you doing?" "Cleaning," he said, stepping in front of the bin to block my view. "Go to sleep, David. You look tired." I went to my room, but I didn't sleep. The cleaning sounds continued all night. Thud, splash, scrub, over and over. My curiosity finally outweighed my fear around 3 a.m. I waited until I heard Arthur go into the bathroom and turn on the shower. I crept into the kitchen. The bin was gone, but the sink was stained with a dark, brownish-red residue. I opened the fridge to get some water, and my heart stopped. The fridge was empty, except for a dozen Tupperware containers. Each one was labeled with a date and a location. September 14th, O'Hare. October 22nd, Lincoln Park. November 1st, Wicker Park. Inside the containers wasn't food. They were filled with what looked like liquid gelatin, but suspended inside were small, personal items. A wedding ring, a tooth, a lock of hair. I realized with a jolt of terror that Arthur wasn't a chemist. He was a collector. I heard the shower stop. I bolted back to my room and locked the door, shoving my dresser against it. A few minutes later, I heard his footsteps stop outside my door. He didn't knock. He just stood there. "I know you looked in the fridge, David," he said softly. "I was going to wait until your lease was up in December. I like your hair. It would look so good in a jar." I called 911 immediately. Arthur didn't try to break in. He just walked out the front door. By the time the police arrived, he was gone. They found out Arthur was an alias for a man wanted in 3 different states for a series of disappearances. The scariest part? The police found a hidden camera in my smoke detector. When they reviewed the footage, they saw Arthur standing over my bed every night for the past month, just watching me sleep for hours, holding a pair of surgical scissors. I live alone now. I pay more in rent, but I never, ever answer an ad on Craigslist.